Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Break in the Game podcast. I'm Stephen Gillespie, and joining me is my co-host Austin. Austin, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, Stephen? How's everybody doing tonight? Doing good. Had a nice day. Had a day off work today.
Oh boy,
got a good show for everybody. I'm excited.
Very cool. Yeah, I had a decent day. I had to do a COVID test for the military, so I had the nasal swabs up my nose, which wasn't as bad as what everybody kind of made it out to be, but it wasn't pleasant by any means. But well, joining us today is very special guest, Logan Newman, who is a part of Arizona Sports, and also I'm going to probably butcher it's KTAR, right, Logan?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you're also do web editing for Thunderwire too, right? So a lot of really cool NBA stuff that you have going on, Logan.
Yeah, that's right. I focus mainly on the Phoenix Suns over with Arizona Sports, and then obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder with Thunderwire. And I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me back on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, folks might remember we had you on, and you kind of alluded to the Suns actually coming into the bubble and doing a little bit of something, Logan. And I wasn't feeling you probably like most other NBA fans weren't either. But I just wanted to let you kind of run the bases a little bit after that home run. They went 8-0 in the bubble. It's a great run.
All right, so to clarify, I did not predict 8-0. I thought they would get 3 wins. If you told me they would get 4 or 5, I wouldn't be surprised. But 8-0 was not my expectation. I can't say it was a home run there.
But what was the key word that we used on the show, Logan? Do you remember on how we thought that they were going to play?
I think it was competent.
Competent was the word, and I think that they exceeded that for sure. But yeah, congratulations on Phoenix. Unfortunately, couldn't, being perfect couldn't help them, make the playoffs, but it was something to behold,
Yeah. I mean, they lost to the Warriors and the Pistons over the final couple of weeks of the real season, so they did it to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And Austin, just again, congratulations on LA. I know that your Lakers ended up taking it all home. So just again, you can follow Logan and run around the bases real quick if you want.
Well, I mean, you knew all along that they were going to. No, I'm just kidding. No, I am happy that they won. To be honest, and I've said this before, after Miami won that second game 5, when Jimmy Butler had that amazing performance, I was pretty nervous. And that was the only time throughout the whole playoffs that I even really thought there was a chance that they wouldn't win. But, I think going back to what you guys were talking about in the bubble a little bit, it was just really exciting to see them, Phoenix Suns turn it on the way they did at the end of the season. I've always been a big Devin Booker fan. I think he obviously gets his shine for sure. He gets talked about a lot, but he's never really had any help around him. And it seems like, they've got a nice young core, and I'm excited to see what they can do with a full season of DeAndre Ayton this year for sure. Hopefully.
Yeah. It's
and Logan, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's surprising how much better he is when the starting point guard isn't a rookie second-round draft pick and the backup point guard isn't a rookie second-round draft pick.
Right.
With no Dragon Bender. He's not starting alongside 2 to 3 rookies. It makes a difference.
It definitely does.
Yeah, grown-ups in the room help for sure. But I want to ask you one question about the Suns, Logan, before we get going in our way too early awards episode. Who other than Devin Booker, right, stood out to you most in the bubble for the Suns? I have one guy that I want to ask you about, but I want to get your take first.
I think you're going to say Mikal Bridges.
Yes, sir. That's the guy.
Yeah, he stood out for sure, and he does that pretty consistently. The way he plays defense, we've seen that throughout the season. And it was great that other people around the country could see that same type of difference he makes on defense. He looks like he's a future all defensive player in the near future, not down the road. And the other one, for me personally, is Cam Johnson. He's always looked like a solid 3-point shooter, but he really showed out in the bubble and made a big difference in a way that I didn't expect when they traded down and drafted him with the number 11 pick.
Yeah, he stood out too. And then you have to love the story of, Cameron Payne getting signed on, right before the bubble kicked up. And, it looks like if he's willing to stay, that he's going to be a suitable backup point guard for the Suns down the line.
Yeah, I had no idea what they were doing when they signed him, but he exceeded any expectation I had. And if he can keep that up, he'll be a good backup point guard there.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, you got a Suns question before we move on, brother?
Yeah. What's your opinion on Monty Williams? I think I really like him as a coach. I just want to get your feelings on him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Kind of alludes to what we said earlier. There's an adult in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Igor Kokoshkov as a person and as a coach, but it looks like he wasn't right for this young team. There's Jay Triano was still young. Earl Watson was young. I like Jeff Hornacek, okay, when he did well, but Monty actually has this presence and this leadership that the Suns have really been missing on the team, whether in the coaching staff or on the bench. So he's really been a positive there for that reason.
Yeah, and he's been beloved on pretty much every stop that he's ever been on. You know, with the Pelicans or Hornets, whatever you want to call them, when he was there with them, and then the Oklahoma City Thunder, the way the team rallied around him. You know, with the event that happened in his personal life, and it just seems like he's got his name carries a lot of weight in the league, even though he hasn't necessarily been a head coach for a whole heck of a long time. He's been an assistant in the league for a while. So it was pretty cool to see him get the opportunity, and then to see the Suns in the season the way they did. You really couldn't get any better than that,
Yeah. The Suns convincing Monty Williams to take their job instead of the Lakers' job this offseason was their best move in the last 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to get moving on to a very fun show. And Logan, I'm so glad that you got to be here for this one. Last week, we did our way too early power rankings, which unfortunately, Austin, you ended up missing. But I know that I've had a chance to look at your power rankings. They're up on our website, the offtheballnetwork.com, available. I looked at them. I don't agree with everything, obviously, but it's a sound list nonetheless. And Logan, you had a chance to look at the one that I sent you, later last week, and you basically just agreed with most of it, but the lower end, I think that you had a couple younger teams, looking to step up. Who are some of the teams that you're expecting to do better this upcoming season compared to last year?
I mean, honestly, I think a large part of it has to do with where Chris Paul ends up going. If he stays in the West, if he gets traded from the Thunder are the only team in the Western Conference that aren't going to be trying for a playoff spot. And I could legitimately see a way that every single team in that division gets into the playoffs. I think that the Timberwolves and Kings are probably less likely, but if the Spurs bounced back, I would have no surprise. If the Suns got in, I wouldn't be particularly surprised. Pelicans are obviously set up to make it. I think they probably will make it. I would be surprised if all 8 of the same teams made the playoffs. I just have no idea which one of them is going to bounce out. And this might be another year where the West needs 48, 49 wins to get in.
Yeah, I'm expecting the West, and Austin, I'm sure you're the same way, where, the West is going to be looking pretty deep this year. What are your takes on the West, Austin?
Yeah, actually, in my article, I think I talked about how pretty much I had everybody but Sacramento that would possibly easily make the playoffs in the East. 14 out of 15 teams in the West would finish, I feel like right in the middle of the Eastern Conference this year. This is the year I would like to see them try out just a 1 through 16 seeding, non-dependent on which conference they're in. But it's probably not going to happen, but it'd be cool. And I actually had 3 newcomers in the West this year. I had, I had the Pelicans and the Grizzlies both taking the 7th and 8th seeds. And then obviously I put Golden State back in there as well. I left out Houston, Utah, and I can't remember who the third team was.
The Thunder, probably.
Yeah, it was the Thunder. Yep, definitely. Thank you. But as far as like the Suns too, I had them as high as 7 at one point, and I think I put them at 10 or 11. And when it was all said and done, they could fall anywhere in there, and it wouldn't surprise me. Minnesota's the same way. Minnesota could not work out. I'm not too sure who's going to be the leader on that team. Really, I don't feel like Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell are really all that mature or ready to step up and be the guy. So, or they could be. And if they do, they're extremely talented and they could finish pretty high as well. So there's a lot of different things, that go into it, and a lot of different things you can think about in terms of, who's going to finish where. But, I just think it's definitely not going to be the same 8 teams from last year for sure. The West is just way too deep, and it got even better,
Yeah, with Golden State coming back, that alone, reshuffles the cards,
right.
If you will, with with the return of them. And then you got young teams too, like Memphis and New Orleans, looking to, try to up their level of play in their game. While you got some teams like Houston, which we don't know what their identity is going to look like. One of the few teams left in the NBA that still don't have a head coach. They basically just got, promoted a general manager who'd been with the organization there for a little bit. And we don't know how Harden and Westbrook are going to look next season, what the roster around them is going to look like, even if both of them, or, at least one of them may not be there next year. So a lot of questions coming out of the West. But with all that in mind, and knowing that we haven't experienced a free agency nor the NBA draft, we're going to do our best collectively to tell you exactly who is going to win what award based on what we already know, which isn't much about the NBA right now. And Logan, since you're our honored guest, we're going to give you the first shot at the most important award for the regular season, and that is going to be the NBA MVP. Logan, would you please enlighten us on who is going to be the MVP next season?
Yeah. First off, I'd like to emphasize that we know nothing. I don't think we even know the starting date of the season. Right. So we literally don't know a thing about this upcoming season. With that said, I do think that the player who led his team to the best offensive rating ever last season is going to be MVP this year, and that is Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks. Sounds like Dwight Powell will be healthy back in time. And every contract on that team is movable. So if a trade pops up or there's a free agency move they like, they can do it. They can fit it in. And if Luka goes off for 29, 9, and 9, they're a top 3 seed, it'd be hard to argue against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Austin, what are your thoughts on Luka for MVP?
I think he's somebody that I definitely had up there in my considerations. I ultimately went a different way. I just think anymore to win the MVP, unless you're going to have a Russell Westbrook season like a few years ago, you've got to win a ton of games. And there's talent on the roster, and they could be a really good team. But I think it's really reliant on the health of his teammates to a certain extent, because if Porzingis misses a lot of time, or if Powell's not the same, or when he comes back from injury, or any other number of factors, in terms of health, I think that can kind of really, bring their win total down to a point where I think you're going to have to finish, top 2 or 3 in either conference to, be the guy on your team to win the MVP. But, I do think he's got a really good shot to win it. I love his game. He's exciting to watch. I'm definitely a big fan for sure.
Logan, I'm right there with you, and just so everyone knows, we did not coordinate, and give each other our list before we came in. We came in not knowing who was going to say what. I'm with you on Luka Doncic. Austin, to your point, I think that you're right. Record is going to have a lot to do with MVPs. It looks like for the foreseeable future, if you just kind of notice the trend that has gone on in the NBA, right? Like with Giannis going back to back, and we all know how he fared in the Eastern Conference the last couple seasons. I just think, one, that Luka is probably one of the more marketable, younger players moving forward. And I think that, that can transcend their record. Right now, on my way too early power rankings, I have them, I believe, second, right, in the Western, or excuse me, fourth in the Western Conference right now, behind, both the LA teams and Golden State. I think fourth is enough to get you MVP. I could certainly see a scenario, though, where he doesn't get it solely based off of his record. But I think, his usage rating, he's in the, top 100th percentile in usage rating. So he has the ball in his hands all the time. He's a triple-double waiting to happen. He could do it in a lot of ways. And, we also need to consider that it is his 3rd season coming into next year. And one area that he could definitely improve on is his 3-point shooting. He's around a 30% 3-point shooter, which isn't very attractive, but he takes some very difficult, attempts. So Logan, I'm right there with you. You got anything you want to say more about Luka based on what we had mentioned?
I think going on with that, not just with Luka, but around the league, you kind of need to have a good story, and there can be voter fatigue with you. So voter fatigue is why I'm eliminating Giannis, I'm eliminating James Harden, I'm eliminating LeBron. I think that Luka is one of only a few options, unless LeBron goes off this year, keeps trying as hard as he did this season. I think there are only a few options to win it. and Luke's at the top of that list. I'm curious if Austin is going to have my number 2 guy, and I hope he will.
Austin, who do you got?
Okay. Well, actually, it came down to 2 people for me. I actually have a little thing here on it. It came down to Stephen Curry and Jason Tatum. Believe it or not.
Ooh.
That's who I had as my 2 that I think have a chance. And
I would love to be wrong at Tatum getting the award.
I ended up going with Stephen Curry, actually.
Okay.
And that was hard. I think, on to what Logan said about having a good story, this kind of a comeback season for him. And I think with him and Clay coming back, and they're going to be, right back in the mix. I have them as number 2 in the West behind the Lakers in my power rankings.
As do I.
I just think, there's definitely not going to be voter fatigue. People are going to be excited to see him back on the court. And he's already a 2-time MVP. And, he's one of the most popular players in the world. For a while, he probably was the most popular player in the world, or very close to it. I eliminated Anthony Davis. I had him probably the next guy there, because I don't think you're going to win MVP next to LeBron James. I just don't see it. If you played with Larry Bird, if you played with Michael Jordan, if you played with Magic Johnson, you're not really going to win MVP over them. It's not. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Not the way in the NBA works. No.
Right. Harden and Giannis, same thing that you guys said. Just a little bit of voter fatigue, and people, even though it's a regular season award, people are going to hold what happens in the playoffs against both of those guys, I think. Kevin Durant's in the top 10 in terms of, betting odds, I guess. I don't think he's going to be the same player after an Achilles injury. No one really ever is. Kawhi Leonard could be up there. Load management kind of turns people off there. And I think they're going to probably stick with that. I don't know if he's really charismatic or popular enough even to get enough votes. And I think that does matter. And then Damian Lillard rounds out the top 10 of the in terms of best odds to win it. And I think he did reach another level in the bubble, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But ultimately, I just don't think Portland's going to win enough games for him to take the MVP. So I went with Curry just because it's a comeback story. He's already extremely popular. I don't think his injuries were too severe or anything that's going to really change the way he has to play. And he's going to put up a lot of points, and I think people are just really excited about his return. So that's why I went with him.
Yeah, Logan, what are your thoughts about Steph Curry returning and getting MVP in his year back out off of an injury?
Yeah, so before I agree with everything you said about Curry, Jokic is also in my top 5 list. I don't think you mentioned him, and he averaged after he had a rough start to last year, then came back with 23 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists per game. Denver's a 1 seed; he could be in the running, but Steph was my number 2 guy on the list. Almost went with him number 1. For the same reason you said. We took him for granted the last few seasons of his health, and he comes back and drains 353 pointers. Warriors are a 1 or 2 seed, and we enjoy watching him play again. He's going to be a favorite for the award.
Yeah, and I think too, just speaking to the injuries and the concerns about them, I think that they gave him a little bit of the Zion Williamson treatment, if you will, right? Where they treated him like he was made of glass. I don't think the injuries that he sustained necessitated the amount of games that he missed, for sure. I think it was.
If the Warriors were in the playoff running, he would have played.
Right. They gave him some extra time off so they could get that number 2 pick.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it was fooling anybody. The reason why he wasn't playing as much, why Draymond was in and out. I see a few of these guys on this team, make it a case for a number of awards, right? But I could definitely see a world where Steph Curry certainly does get it. It's so hard to bet on him though, with basically with Clay coming back. We don't know how he's going to look coming off of an injury. I don't think that's getting talked about enough, right? And what do they do with Wiggins and the second pick? That's going to be an interesting focal point.
I honestly feel like Andrew Wiggins doesn't get enough. He gets a little bit too much criticism. I don't know if he doesn't get enough credit, but I feel like he's a solid third option in terms of offense. And if they bring in a big man like James Wiseman with that number 2 pick, because I think he is still going to be there, that team could be dangerous. That team could be really scary. If all he's really asked to do is play a little bit of defense and hit, be the third scorer on that team, I think Andrew Wiggins can fill that role easily. He's every bit as good as Harrison Barnes was, I think, at that,
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be
way.
weird to see him being on a team where like he's going to be held accountable. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, he's going to be moving from a team where he had a lot of say, weirdly enough, and in Golden State, the name Andrew Wiggins doesn't hold a lot of weight, right? Especially considering the seasons that he's had and the amount of money that he's making, versus the production. So we've seen Golden State turn around a couple of people's, identity in the NBA. Logan, what were you going to say?
I don't think I had anything else to say.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. So we have 2 votes, Luka, 1 vote, Steph for MVP. I definitely, Steph was one that I was considering again. It was just, I like to be way too careful, even though that this is a ridiculous show and we're voting way too early.
Who is your number 2?
I'm sorry?
Who's your number 2?
My number 2 actually was going to be Anthony Davis. I think that AD is going to have a larger season. I think that we're going to start seeing LeBron kind of transition to, a little bit more what he does, what he kind of typically does every time he goes somewhere, right? Like the first season, all out effort, scrap to get where you're going. And then they start bringing in more and more rotation players, and your second and third options get more and more responsibility. So I think that AD is going to see a lot of, a lot more action and a higher usage rate. And I think LeBron's going to be okay with it, because I don't think the LeBron is going to get another MVP in the NBA anytime soon, if at all.
Well, if he did, he'd be the oldest MVP ever.
Right.
The oldest at this point. Karl Malone was 35 when he won the MVP. And I agree. I don't think he's going to be statistically going all out that crazy next year, but I still think we're a year away from him really starting to give over the reins to Anthony Davis. I just think he's still so motivated to prove anybody else who he hasn't proved wrong at this point. So we'll see, though.
I'm not suggesting that he's going to average, 15,
no, I know,
5 or anything. I see it, slowly starting to become more and more AD's team, and LeBron basically saving himself, to exert himself for like finals MVPs is really what I'm kind of suggesting.
For sure.
All right. Well, Austin, I want you to lead off on this next one.
Okay.
We're both, big fans of coaching in the NBA. Logan, I know that you pay a lot of attention to the coaching as well. So this award means a lot to me just because I'm a basketball nerd and I love coaching. Austin, who is your way too early coach of the year?
I'm going to go with Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat. I think it may, after what we saw him do in the bubble, the way he completely just turned around that series against the Celtics with using that zone. He doesn't get enough credit for everything that he does throughout the season. If you watch the Miami Heat throughout the season, they run every different defensive coverage you can imagine. They go through spurts where they play no zone. They go through spurts where they press for 3/4 of a game. You'll see them do multiple different zones in the same game, and then they'll go into nothing but man-to-man the next time you see them. That way, come playoff time, they can kind of adjust and play any way they need to. And, I think we saw, like I said before, just a coaching masterclass from him in this entire playoffs. To take the team that he did all the way to the finals, and not only that, with the injuries they had in the finals, still make me pretty nervous that they could actually, win the title over the Lakers. That's really impressive. And you've seen the development of all the young guys on that team. Just everything you look for in a great coach. Is he adaptable? Can he develop young players? Do guys like playing for him? Is their defense solid? All those things. He checks all the boxes. And, I'm a huge Brad Stevens fan, and I think he completely outcoached Brad Stevens in that series. So I think Eric Spoelstra, if he hasn't already gotten enough credit for how good of a coach he is, he's going to start to now, I believe.
And just real quick before we move on to Logan, where did you have Miami in your way too early power rankings in the East?
I actually have them finishing number 1 in the East.
Number 1 in the East. Okay.
Yep. I have some reasons why, some predictions that probably won't come true, but more wishful thinking than anything.
It's too early, bro. It's too early. It's all right.
I just, everybody says they're waiting for Giannis next year. I don't know if they do. Jimmy Butler's 31 or 2 years old already. I think he's proven that him and Bam work well together, and Bam's an up-and-coming superstar. Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, all those young guys that they've got, Duncan Robinson. They're one of 6 teams in the NBA that's expected to have like any cap space at all this year. So I could see them, adding a couple pieces or one, even if it's just like a big 1-year contract for somebody.
Yeah.
And I think they firmly believe that they can go win now, and they're going to try. So.
And not only are they a team with cap space, but they're a good team with cap space, which there's not a lot of those out there right now.
Right.
Logan, what do you have to say to Austin's take about Eric Spoelstra being Coach of the Year?
I agree with you. I had him. I have nothing more to add to what you said.
Okay. Wow, that was easy. I'm going to go well, first, I love Eric Spoelstra. On our show, I had mentioned that Miami is the team that Milwaukee did not want to face for a number of reasons, all of them being defensively. I was not expecting the offense to be as fluid in the playoffs as it was. I think they milked every ounce of production out of that roster. I don't think that there was a single thing that Eric Spoelstra could have done better with that team. I'm not expecting them to come back and finish the number 1 seed in the East, though. To me, however, I think that the team that I have coming in number 1 is Boston, and I think that Brad Stevens would get Coach of the Year in that scenario. Look at all the youth that they have on this team, with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They have Kemba Walker. Who knows what they're going to do with Gordon Hayward here soon, right? They got a number of other young guys who are getting more NBA experience, especially guys like Robert Williams. They got a good amount of draft picks coming up, and they could add production in the draft or in free agency. I think that they're going to improve their depth a lot more this season. And then again, just the development and the timeline that you see Jason Tatum on. I mean, Austin, you mentioned just a second ago that how high he's going to be on your MVP ballot this early, right? So I think in a scenario like that, if Boston elevates and becomes the number 1 seed, which I'm, way too early expecting based on what we know right now, I could easily see Brad Stevens earning his first Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that, man. I love, like I said, I've always loved Brad Stevens since he took over at Butler. I've been a big fan of his. I was actually a personal friend of the Butler coach before he took over. So when he got his job, I was a little like, oh man, I don't know about this guy, but
right.
He's turned me into a fan for sure. I can tell you right now, if he was available, the Pacers would have hired him in a heartbeat. They would have given him any amount of money he would have asked for, because he's just like a god around here. It's crazy. And to your point about Jason Tatum, Tim Legler on ESPN or on NBA radio today actually picked him to be his MVP. So that's kind of interesting that we all kind of think he's going to make that jump, and they were talking about that. So we're not too far off on these picks, I don't think, at least.
Yeah, if Legs is saying that. Logan, what do you think about Brad Stevens as a potential Coach of the Year?
I like him a lot, and I like him more now that he's been in the league for so long. I think when he first got in and everybody anointed him the new Greg Popovich, there was a little bit of disdain for him around the league. But now that he's been doing it a while, I do think he has a legit chance if the Celtics do clinch the 1 seed. I think that a few other names who could do it are Mike Malone, Rick Carlisle, Steve Kerr, and if the Nets are fun and really, really good, I think Steve Nash would have a chance. They would have to be great, obviously, but there is a chance there for that one.
Nice.
Yeah. What about no one mentioned a guy by the name of Nick Nurse? Is that going to be that he's already got one now? He doesn't get another one. We want to see someone else get it, or
I think we saw what he did this year with this team, and they're obviously, I think they already lost Marc Gasol. I'm pretty sure he's going back to Spain, and that's going to be expensive to keep the roster as is, and just everybody's kind of going to expect it now. You know what I mean? Like they're going to expect him to overachieve with the team that they don't see as, do they have a superstar? Kind of, not really. Like, everybody thought they would fall off a cliff when Kawhi left and Danny Green left, and he just, he proved everybody wrong, but he'd have to, win a crazy number of games and probably finish number 1 overall in the East to really have a chance. I think it's like, just the expectations are too high at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, he already improved. We've already awarded him for what he did it would take another leap for the Raptors for voters to give him the award again. And even if they stay the exact same team, I think that voters would move on to a different coach because we've already seen Nick Nurse do this.
Okay, I want to ask one more coach, and then we'll move on. How do we feel about Ty Lue taking over with the Los Angeles Clippers? Do you think that he's a kind of a dark horse candidate? Do you think that we're just going to be expecting the Clippers to be good anyway?
I'll let you go first, Logan.
All right. I have no real opinion on Ty Lue, honestly. But yeah, with the Clippers, I think just that our expectations of them are so high already. They have Kawhi, they have Paul George, they have their depth. If they do win 60-plus games, that's what we expected them to do. They should be that 1 or 2 seed. Whereas with the Heat, Jimmy Butler's like the 10th, 8th best player in the league. They don't have a Kawhi. Who else did we say?
We mentioned Mike Malone, which I think's an interesting one.
I had Mike Malone pretty high on my list. I think I had him like top third.
I think that Denver could be I hope that they're good this year. But I think with losing Paul Millsap, who is such a huge piece to their defensive identity, and we saw, Nikola Jokic get exposed on defense. We've seen, Michael Porter Jr. get exposed. Grant is rumored in a lot of trades right now. I think that Denver could be a team. I have them 5th right now, right? But I think that they're a team that we could expect to take a step back this season even, and maybe even see Mike Malone a little bit on the hot seat.
And that's exactly why I think he is a candidate. We expect them to drop off a couple spots, but if they stay 1 or 2, that exceeds our expectations.
Okay,
if they get 1 or 2, okay, that's what they were supposed to do.
And I feel like with Michael Porter Jr., at least, he's got the ability to be a good defender if he works on it. Jokic is probably going to be what he's going to be. He just doesn't have the same level of athleticism as a lot of big guys. But, Michael Porter Jr. could become a great defender. He's got elite athleticism and quickness. He's just got to want to do it. And he's young, and I think he'll get there. And kind of like what Logan said, I kind of felt like, they could go either way. And if they turn out to be really good, which they have for the last couple of years, and I don't really see them falling off that much because of Millsap. I really hope they keep Jeremy Grant. They need to re-sign him for sure. Right, that's a big. And they didn't have Will Barton for the whole bubble either as well. Yeah. And he started for that team for the majority of the year. So
and Harris was hurt too.
So they come back at full strength. I had them, I think, 3rd in my power rankings. I had them finishing 3rd in the West.
Okay.
But it's probably because I just am never gonna appreciate the Clippers. I have to hate them a little bit. I moved them down a lot further than most people.
Brother. Yeah. I have them 3rd, which I think is probably where most of the consensus would be moving forward for this year. Moving on to the next category, way too early rookie of the year. Now this is a class that isn't really sexy. There was a report that I saw that the Wolves have already said that they don't know who they're getting, that no one has stood out to them, which kind of a weird thing to say, right? If you're going to say that no one stood out, then you're going to pick a guy to come to your team and be like, hey, we want you to play for us. And they're like, no, you said that I didn't stand out, right? So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird. Logan, I know that, again, there's not a stellar standout in this draft. Who do you have for your rookie of the year?
I think there is one guy specifically who could be a standout. I think the best player in the class. I think he's the flashiest player, and he's going to be posting triple doubles, getting on national news constantly. LaMelo Ball is going to be the rookie of the year.
Okay.
He needs. There are obviously areas to improve, but I think the biggest one is just decision making. I watched him a few times in high school, and when he turned it on, his 3-pointers dropped. Like I don't think he's a bad 3-point shooter like his stats show. His passing is already incredible. He has the IQ to do all these things. He gets into passing lanes well. And I think that once he's on an NBA team with NBA coaches and he no longer feels like he's the best, he's the cream of the crop, I feel like he will get whipped into shape and he has a chance to be a star. And I think that if he posts, 16, 17 points and 7 assists and rebounds a piece per game, those stats are rookie of the year numbers as well.
Yeah, if he posts those, I mean, that would be definitely hard to deny. Austin, one, how do you feel about LaMelo Ball as a prospect moving into this draft? And do you agree with him being rookie of the year?
Actually, yes, I picked him to be rookie of the year as well. I think for all the things that he said, he's going to be in the news no matter what a lot. Lonzo Ball took the NBA by storm and was not anything what people thought he was going to be. I don't think he's got the name, he's got the media behind him. He is flashy. He's played professionally already, so I think that gives him a little bit of a leg up. Granted, it's not the best professional league he was in, but
he didn't play a whole lot of games either.
True, but he's got experience. He played for that academy too before that, and and he's been in the national media since high school. Since he was about a sophomore in high school. He's not going to be overwhelmed by anything coming into the NBA, I don't think. And I think a lot of times the rookie of the year, usually, especially in a year where there's not a big name guy that everybody's like consensus, this guy's going to get it. If you can score a lot of points, you're probably going to win. And I think he can score a lot of points. And I think if he goes number one overall, I think he's got a great opportunity, to come right in there and create a pretty exciting young trio. But wherever he goes in the draft, I do think he has the highest ceiling. We'll call it that. I think he has the most potential. I think James Wiseman, in terms of the top three guys that they talk about, is probably best fit, in my opinion, for Golden State.
I would agree.
I think a lot of times there's some people talk about issues with his work ethic. I mean, I think you can say that probably about just about any 18 or 19-year-old kid for the most part, not always, but he's just a freak of nature athlete. I heard one report about him today that he might be the fastest guy in this whole draft, and he's 7'1". He's in terms of getting up and down the court, he's just insanely athletic. And, we've seen Golden State make it to the finals with centers like Zaza Pachulia and Kevin Looney. And, so the bar for being a good center in Golden State's not really that high. You have to be able to block shots and catch lobs and, rebound pretty well. And I think he can do all those things. I think he's the safest pick, but I do think LaMelo, ends up getting rookie of the year. I agree with what he said. I'm
not super duper high on Ball simply because I do believe, if you've seen his jump shot, I think that the percentages is indicative of just basically for his shooting form. I don't have him going first overall in this draft, because unless the Wolves deal this trade, because if you look at their needs, right, and I know that it's kind of taboo to draft for needs, but I think drafting Ball when you already got, D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, there's your point guard and your center, right? And I think that Ball doesn't go there because of that. He's obviously not going to go be point guard in Golden State. So I think that he does go to Charlotte, even though that they have a couple guys there, but none of them are really good enough to say, we're not going to take a chance on Ball. So I think that he goes to Charlotte, and I think that that's going to be a tough market for him to make a case for rookie of the year, even if he puts up decent numbers. Who I have as my rookie of the year is Obi Toppin. I think that he has a very NBA-ready game. I think that that's going to help him specifically for this year's award. Who has a better career going forward? Probably Ball, maybe if everything goes right for him. But I think Toppin, his offense is already there. He's older, more mature. He's very, very strong. So he's got an NBA body to go along with his game. I think that if he does go to a place like Minnesota, or maybe even falls further down to like a Chicago or something like that, I think that he's going to make a lot of noise just because his game is already there. I mean, I think that as far as offense, I could see him, if everything goes well, or him landing somewhere between a Montrezl Harrell to an Amari Stoudemire level of offense in today's NBA. What do you guys think about that?
Man, I like Obi Toppin a lot. He was somebody I had thought about for the award. I honestly ended up going with LaMelo Ball because I really couldn't determine who I thought was going to have the best year, and I just went with the guy with the biggest name and that's going to have the most media attention wherever he goes. But I think if Obi Toppin goes to the Bulls at 4 and they, Billy Donovan helps turn that team around and they make the playoffs and he has a good year, he could definitely take it. I think he's one of those guys that what you're getting right away. You know what I mean? He's ready. He's he is what he is at this point already in his career. LaMelo Ball could turn out to be a superstar, but he could be flame just out in a couple years passer. Or just an okay guy. Like he could be Ricky Rubio. Which Ricky Rubio has turned his turned his career into a pretty successful career. But the hype on him coming into the NBA was just crazy,
right?
And so he could, if without a jump shot, he could end up being just kind of go along those lines, just a journeyman NBA point guard.
A solid career. I mean, if he's Ricky Rubio, there's worse NBA players that he could turn into other than
right. Definitely.
Yeah. Logan, what is your take on Obi Toppin?
I do like Obi. I like him off. I hate him defensively. Like him a lot offensively.
Right.
Yeah, I think that the Amari comparisons are a bit too out there. Amari had a case for best power forward in the league for a year or two when he was still against Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett,
right?
Guys. But yeah, for Rookie of the Year, if you're looking for a guy who will average 18 points and 9 rebounds a game, shoot 50%, and you go by the stats, Obi is a very safe choice for this award. And he's probably a safe choice to be a role player in the league for a long time.
Right. Yeah. And I don't, again, like we're not going to see a Blake Griffin or a John Wall in this draft. You know what I mean? Like I don't see a world where a guy just comes in and just takes over a team with this draft right now. Right.
At least not right away.
Yeah. I do want to give one dark horse, like outside the top 10. I really like Sadiq Bey from what I've seen.
I love Sadiq Bey.
If he goes to a team like the Pelicans, who is in the playoff race, and he manages to put up 15, 16 points a game, I think that he could have a case. He's not a Donovan Mitchell, but he could be that Donovan Mitchell type who's drafted 13 and blossoms.
I have him 14th on my board. Like I could easily see that. I believe in one of the mock drafts that I wrote up, I had him going to San Antonio, which I think would be an excellent fit, and he could put up those types of numbers in a San Antonio system too.
Yeah. I mean, I think San Antonio, if I were them, I would go Patrick Williams, because if Patrick Williams is in a good situation, he could be a top 5 player in the draft. But yeah, Sadiq Bey, if he goes there and the Spurs make the playoffs, he has a great case for Rookie of the Year.
I like him as a dark horse. Yeah, I love Sadiq Bey.
I like the thought of someone outside of the top 10, at least outside of the top 3. I'm not too excited about 2 of the 3 situations in the top 3 draft picks. You know what I mean? Like Minnesota and Charlotte don't really instill a lot of confidence. I think it could come down to whoever Golden State ends up taking might just be in such a good situation with such a good franchise that it could end up being whoever they draft.
Playing next to potential MVP for this season, right? So yeah, I mean, you definitely help his numbers out. All right, so I had the hardest time coming up with the 6th man of the year for this way too. Me too. 6th man of the year, and I think it mainly just has to deal with the fact that we don't know who's going to be where, come next season, right? So, Austin, I would love, who did I do first last time?
I don't remember. I think
I was first for Rookie.
I think you did
okay,
him.
Right. All right, cool. I wanted to make sure I'm being really corny and keeping tally marks.
Being a fair moderator here.
I'm trying to be a fair moderator, right? Austin, 6th man of the year. Is it going to be someone that we're expecting, or like, did you play it safe? Or are you predicting that someone signed somewhere to be a 6th man?
I kind of played it safe just because I don't think even if he does go somewhere else or stay with who he was with this last year, I don't think he's going to get a starting role. I originally went with Michael Porter Jr., but you made a good point about Millsap leaving, and he may end up getting moved into the starting rotation. If he doesn't, I could see it being him, but ultimately I went with Derrick Rose. I think he could have been in a little bit higher rankings for this year for the 6th man. He could have finished a little bit better. I think he had his career high in terms of points per 36 minutes was like 26. He's turned his game into, he's a decent shooter. Like, he couldn't shoot when he won the MVP
at all. No.
And he had devastating injury after devastating injury. And it makes me almost sad to think about if his game had developed like this without those injuries and he still had that explosive athleticism, how good would he have been? And I don't know if a former MVP has ever won the 6th man of the year award. Probably not. Maybe. I didn't look it up. I probably should have. But
now we're just going to be a bunch of people to say we don't know. So thanks, Austin.
Yep. You know how I do. But I just think, he's going to, really be an offensive spark off the bench, and that's really what you need to be 6th man of the year. Like, Montrezl Harrell kind of proved me wrong with that, but he averaged almost a double-double off the bench. But I usually feel like it goes to a guard, and I usually feels like it goes to a guard that's going to score a lot of points and be expected to score a lot with their second unit. And I just think that fits Derrick Derrick Rose's career at this point and what he is.
Okay. Logan, do you agree?
I did not go with Derrick Rose. It's funny that you mentioned Michael Porter Jr. because he was one of my top choices until you guys were like, "Hey, he could be a starter next year." Honestly, I kind of wrote down like 5 names.
Okay, let's hear them.
It'd be just because I have no idea what the role is going to be with whoever it is.
This was the hardest award that I had coming
by
up.
far.
Like, I filled out my All NBA defensive second team before I picked.
Me too. I did them all before this one.
Yeah. So 2 guys in similar situations where I don't know what team they'll be on: Dennis Schroeder and Eric Gordon.
Okay.
Depending where I honestly think Dennis Schroeder should have been 6th man this year, but
me too.
I went with Trez, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's fair. But if Schroeder or Gordon get traded and they're still 6th men, they have a shot. Jordan Clarkson, he's a free agent.
Yes,
I would not want him to be my team's starting point guard, but I'd like him to be my team's backup point guard.
He showed you why this year too, right? Like in Utah, he was phenomenal coming in that role.
Yeah, I had given up on him, but he proved me wrong. Gary Trent Jr. is kind of a long shot for me, but I really like him as a player.
Me too.
Me too.
And
if he's not the team's starting small forward,
I hope they keep Melo.
Yeah. And then in a similar note, if this person isn't this team starting forward, Kelly Oubre Jr. I have no idea where the Suns are going to go, but Mikal Bridges should be the starting small forward. It seems like they're going to chase after Jeremy Grant for power forward, and if that was the case, he would start. If not, there's still the argument Oubre versus Cam Johnson versus Dario Saric, whoever they want there at the power forward spot. And Oubre in Trinket contract year may just say, no, I'm not coming off the bench. I need to start to get my $18 million a year going forward. But if he is coming off the bench, that would do the Suns very, very well, because over the last few years, when Devin Booker goes to the bench, they collapse. They have no choice behind him. And Oubre would be a way for them to keep getting scoring, even with Booker on the bench getting his rest.
Yeah, I love Tsunami Poppy. He's one of my favorite personalities in the NBA. Love him.
Yeah. So I think I'm going with him with the knowledge that he might be a starter and that this might be completely void.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to spend too much time on this award personally because I started realizing we don't know who's going to be where. So I played it safe and went with Lou Williams. I think that he's where
he's going to be and he's not going to start. So it makes sense.
It doesn't matter if they trade him to whatever team. He is eligible for 6th man of the year. I mean, he's won it several times. So, I mean, it's not like, it would be crazy for him to take home this award. I think that the Clippers need to do a lot in this offseason. They need to add a point guard who can facilitate for others and themselves. I think that they realize that all of their best players are kind of isolationists at heart, and they don't really have anybody that can kind of bend a defense, in a lot of different ways. But going back to Lou Will, 18 points in a game. It doesn't matter if it's the most efficient 18 points, but it's still 18 points. And
18 points.
It's 18 points, right? So I think that's, like you mentioned earlier, Austin, a scoring guard more likely than not wins this award. And I went with Lou Will. I almost went with Schroeder, to be honest with you, Logan, but I think that, OKC, I think that they're going to be selling every part of the house this year. And if a team is willing to spend for them, I think that they get them for the intent to start.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think both LA teams should go after Dennis Schroeder.
I think the Lakers, so Logan, you're kind of a cap guy, and Austin and I have talked about this a lot. There's a lot of rumors that the Lakers are trying to get Chris Paul. How? I don't see.
I have no clue.
I have no idea financially how they could make this happen. Is there a way that they could, other than a buyout?
It technically could work. They technically could make it happen, but they would have no depth at all. They would basically have to reset their bench. And I don't think it makes sense, because if either 36-year-old Chris Paul, 36-year-old LeBron James, or Anthony Davis suffers an injury, they're suddenly down to a 5-person team. In that. I think it's unreal. It's something they should look into. Like, Chris Paul is a stud, but I think it's unrealistic for what they actually need.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about this a lot. Yeah. If I think that there is a world, right, where Oklahoma City says, "Hey, Chris, thank you for, playing nice while you were here. We're going to do you solid and buy you out because we're looking to rebuild in these awesome drafts that are be coming down the line." And maybe they just keep his, however, they divide up how much they're going to buy him out per year. They keep that on the books. That way they have the league minimum, amount of contract paid. I think that that's possible. And they try to do right by him and buy him out. That's the only world that I see LA getting him.
Yeah.
It could work. I mean, if the NBA is as scripted as everybody says it is, and LeBron's pulling all the strings, it'll happen.
They finally get their Chris Paul.
Let Chris Paul go to the Lakers.
Right. The NBA needs to just let Chris Paul go to the Lakers. They should have let him go 10 years ago.
Oh, dude. Yes, absolutely. All right.
Oh, sorry. Before we move on, Austin, what would you say about a Dennis Schroeder for Kyle Kuzma trade?
I'd take it in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Absolutely. I think he fits the roster so much better. He doesn't play the same position as LeBron. I think a change of scenery would be good for Kyle Kuzma because he did show flashes of being a terrific player his first year and even into his second year. But I kind of think living in LA seems to have gotten to his head a little bit, maybe, or just maybe the pressure that comes with playing LeBron and AD. I'm not with those guys. I'm not sure what it is, but he's also, like we talked about on the show, Steven, I'm pretty sure he was one of those guys that Lakers fans was making a petition for not to get a ring if they won. He was one of like the 3 guys that were on that list.
Him and KCP and Danny Green.
He's not I'm in quite a few fan groups, and he's not the favorite son of LA, that's for sure. So right. I think LA would be smart to do something like that. I think if it's there, do it. Definitely. I'd be really happy with something like that. Dennis Schroeder was my 6th man of the year, a pick this year anyway. So I'm a big fan. I think it'd be a great trade for the Lakers.
I think the ball gets in Kuzma's hands again. And yeah.
Yeah. My co-editor at Thunderwire brought that up to me, and it works for both teams. The Thunder get younger. They get a forward that they need. And someone who might be able to score really well. The Lakers get someone who can actually handle the ball, create his own shot, and is not Rajon Rondo as much as we love we love playoff Rondo, but the other 82 games, not so much.
Yeah, right. And Rondo has since voiced that he is wanting to be a free agent. Like he may come back, but he wants to hit the market. So
he's such an interesting case for me because his numbers just don't stack up in terms of a Hall of Famer, but in the playoffs, it's just like he's a completely different person. Like his playoff numbers are incredible.
Yeah. And early in his career, right, he definitely probably was on a Hall of Fame trajectory before he just started burning.
I just mean like his career average is like 10-7.
Right.
That doesn't scream Hall of Fame. But then you look at the playoff numbers and it's like 15-9 with 7 rebounds. He almost averages a triple double.
Look at the battles and it's like, wait a second, LeBron James is like rival for 4 years. There was a big one ago.
And now and then they've won a title together. That's crazy to me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the way too early defensive player of the year. Logan, who do you got?
Dang. Do I have to start this one?
Is this a game time decision? You don't have to. I'll start if you want.
Go ahead. You go.
I want to hear where you guys go. Then that'll decide if I go with a pick who I think is more possible or if I can go with a dark horse candidate and get creative.
I like creativity, but I'm going to start off being not creative.
You're the safest picker I've ever met.
I'm very conservative, and I went with Anthony Davis. I think that he's going to be a guy that is now earning a ring. He's building a reputation for himself, is probably going to go down as one of the more talented power forwards of all time. Not saying best, but talented, right? And I think that he is going to improve defensively because I think the Lakers roster is going to improve overall this season. It's really hard when you look at how the Lakers addressed last offseason with the possibility of getting Kawhi Leonard. Understand why they waited on him, but you saw free agent after free agent sign somewhere else that could have been really beneficial to just a LeBron AD team. And I think now that they've got their ring, they have submitted, okay, for you veterans who want just a chance to come, ride the wave and get a championship. I think that they're going to start, you're going to start getting your Shane Battiers and, your Ray Allens and things like that on this team. And it's going to fill out the roster a little bit. And that's going to give Anthony Davis more room to just make a bigger name for himself, as if he needed a bigger reason playing in the LA market, right? But he was already in the running this season. I think that, voter fatigue is probably going to set in with the Rudy Gobert. We saw it this season. I actually was really high on Rudy for getting it this season, right? But and Giannis just got it, and we don't know how he's going to be playing next season with all the controversy that's going on with his, where is he going to end up? And I think that opens the door wide open for Anthony Davis to get a Defensive Player of the Year.
Hey, that's exactly who I picked too. I have Anthony Davis. I think his finals performance is going to stick in people's minds, especially game 6. He was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He had, people don't block 4 or 5 shots a game, or even 3 really anymore, like it used to in the NBA, because there's so many more 3-pointers taken, and there's so many more. The floor is just so much more spaced. But, he's always going to be up there in terms of block shots. He's going to change shots more than I think just about anybody. I like Rudy Gobert. I don't know how much the casual fan or people that just like the NBA really understand how good defensively he is. You got to
dig into advanced stats.
Yeah, I was going to say, you really have to dive into numbers to see how good he is. Like he rated out as like the 3rd or 4th best player in terms of defense, like defensive win shares and defensive rating in all of basketball last year. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if the way the game's played now, I don't know if a big shot blocking, rim protecting center does enough to really garner the award. Anthony Davis can go out on the perimeter and pretty much play really well perimeter defense. In terms of perimeter defense, he can shut smaller guys down. He can play with the biggest guy on the team. I just think he's on his way still. I think he's still trending upwards. He hasn't reached his peak yet. And I just think now that he's won a title, all the pressure of that's off. He plays next to LeBron James. Like we said, we all kind of think he's going to start handing the reins over to him to some extent here soon. Mm-hmm. He's in the, he's on the premier franchise in the NBA, and I just think he's going to have a lot of media attention, and he's going to have another great year. And I don't think Giannis will win really probably any individual awards this year. I think it's going to be really, really hard for him to overcome what's happened the last 2 years in the playoffs. Unless he goes out and averages 35 or 6 points a game, it's going to be really hard to vote for him for really anything.
Well, he's going to have to play more than 30 minutes a game.
Exactly, and I don't see that happening either.
Right. Logan, after having a chance to listen to us talk, glowingly about Anthony Davis, have we persuaded you, or are you going dark horse?
So I have 3 names on my list. One is a safe choice. That's Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One is a medium choice. It's for similar reasons why I said for AD, actually. Bam.
Yep, he was my second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had him up there.
The Heat have the top defense in the league. Bam continues guarding all around the court.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be a surprise at all. And my dark horse is Ben Simmons.
I like it.
I like Ben Simmons. His defense is terrific.
Defender, and I think that he's going to be playing more power forward this year. That's just my guess. But if he does play more power forward, guard positions 1 through 4, and the Sixers are better, he could be in contention.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I like Ben Simmons'
Ben a lot.
defense a lot. I think he's somebody that I think he was underrated defensively until you saw them fall apart without him. I mean, their defensive rating was like crashed when he went out. And it does the same thing when Embiid's not out there too. And that's the one thing that I keep kind of holding on to about that team. I just feel like those two, if they figure it out, and Doc may be able to figure it out, they could be dangerous. They're both so talented. I don't think you give up on that duo just yet, like a lot of people seem to have.
I think they need a grown up on their team. I would if they could.
Well, they had one. They had Jimmy Butler, and they let him go.
I want to know who the grown up is going to be.
I think I know who it's going to be, but you go ahead.
It'll be Chris Paul. They're going to
work
a trade in which they get rid of Al Horford's contract, moving Ben Simmons to power forward, and then they give up Josh Richardson, maybe a pick or 2, give them to the Thunder, or whatever's needed to make salary work. Chris Paul goes to the Sixers. Chris Paul's the point guard, Simmons power forward, Embiid at center, and that's an elite defensive team.
If you're the Thunder and I'm the Sixers, could I interest you a Tobias Harris for a Danilo Gallinari sign and trade?
I actually, Danilo might be. I would say no, because my owner isn't going to want to spend $30 million more in COVID times with the decreased salary cap and luxury tax.
Okay. Thank you for.
Where I have Danilo Gallinari going.
Where's that?
I actually have him going to Miami. I think he's going to end up with the Heat. I think he said already in the media he's willing to take a pay cut, and they could even give him.
He hasn't ever really done that yet, so
no. But I think now he's. I've never really heard him say that before, though, either. I mean, if you're going to get offered a multi-year contract at $20+ million a year, you're not going to turn it down,
right?
But now I think he's at the point in his career where it's a little more realistic for him to. They could give him a huge 1-year deal, not huge, but I mean, they're going to have $20+ million to spend.
Give him the JJ Redick treatment.
Give him a 1-year contract if they really are, set on trying to get Giannis, which I just think is a bad move. I'd like to see them really, honestly, the reason I have them going number one, I wanted to kind of get into this a little bit, is I actually think they should try to sign Fred VanVleet with their cap space.
Would love them there.
And then use their mid-level exceptions, like almost $10 million this year, I think. It's 9.3. And see if they can get Gallinari to sign for that. I think if they got both of them, they'd be terrific.
That'd be nasty.
Mm-hmm. I love that for the Heat. I don't know if Gallo would take $9 million.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Down for pay cut, meaning, oh yeah, I could take 15 million instead of 18, but if you cut in half, that might draw a line.
Yeah.
With that said, though, if the Heat get creative with salary cap and maybe give him a 3-year declining deal, he would still be movable after the season. So then you go after Giannis. If you get Giannis, you trade Gallo. No harm done. If you don't get Giannis, you still have Gallo.
Right. Man, that could work.
It would be really, really interesting. We also need to consider eventually they're gonna need to, re-sign Bam Adebayo, and they still have Jimmy Butler's contract on that team. But if they could pull that off, though, Austin, and Miami would be one of the teams that could, that would be extremely nasty moving forward.
I think it'd be a lot better than trying to get Victor Oladipo to come there, which I've heard a lot about too. I just don't know if he
has a house in Miami, so obviously he has to play there.
But him coming out saying he thinks he deserves a max contract with his next deal, like I don't see NBA teams giving him that much money. I saw a thing about him yesterday. There's 53 guys in the NBA that average at least 17 points a game, which is about what he averages for his career. And of those 53 guys, he has the worst career shooting percentage of all 53 of them. He's not the player that he used to be before that injury. If he comes back this year and does a lot better, maybe. But I think the Pacers definitely aren't going to give him a max contract. I can guarantee that. The Pacers don't spend money like that.
Yeah, there's a couple teams, though, that could probably give him money, but that's probably a storyline for a different day.
Right.
We will move forward with, I'm so excited for the guy that I have picked on here. I think I'm kind of out of the box on this one, but I'm probably not, because I know I'm not the smartest guy on this line right now. Logan, since you were too afraid to give us your take on Defensive Player of the Year first off, would you like to lead us off in Most Improved Player in this way too early segment?
Yeah, this one is actually one that I felt more confident in than pretty much any other. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Nice.
It's now yours.
I wonder who Steven picked.
That was my guy. But yeah, I'm excited that you picked him, because that makes me feel better about picking him.
Yeah, no, he assuming the Thunder trade Paul and Schroeder, SJ is now the number one option. He already led the team last year with 19 points per game, and if he ups that to 23 points, like 6 boards, 6 assists per game, it's an easy pick right there. He also made a pretty sizable jump from his first year to his second year in the league. And if he continues on that trajectory, he could be a borderline all-star contender this year. And that's a pretty traditional storyline for Most Improved Player. Someone beyond their second year, looks like they could be an all-star, will be an all-star in the future, and is posting 20 points, well-rounded stats. He seems like a safe pick.
Yeah, and for all the same things that you just said is exactly why I went with him, because he's going to have more opportunity than he did. It's kind of what with Bam Adebayo, why I thought he should have got it this year, right? Kind of the same thing, waited out the guy ahead of him, stepped into a bigger role, and is going to play very, very well. And I love SGA's game. I love his build. I love it, how dynamic. I love his change of pace. I think that this is his year for the award. Austin, what do you think about SGA? Is he your guy?
He's not, but you guys made a really convincing argument. I'm probably a little more embarrassed about my pick now, because
did you pick LeBron James?
Of course, no. Okay. I always pick LeBron James. No.
Yeah.
I went with RJ Barrett, actually. But now
Okay.
that what you guys said about, it's being a guy past his second year, it's probably not very often it goes to a rookie into a second year. I have kind of noticed that. So that's where I'm kind of not as confident about my pick. But
Luther was getting some buzz, though.
Yeah, I just think, the Knicks can't be much worse. I think they've got a great coach in Thibodeau. I like him a lot. I think I just, maybe because I like the Bulls too. Maybe that's why I was a fan of his. But I think he's going to be good for a guy like RJ. I think he's going to get the most. He gets a lot out of his players, regardless of where he's been for the most part. And I think kind of the same thing that put a bad taste in people's mouth about Stan Van Gundy happened with Tibbs. Is he tried to be the GM and the coach, and it just doesn't work, and it's not going to work. And I think he's there to coach, not to, he's in the kitchen to cook, he's not buying the groceries, which I think is best for most NBA coaches, if not all. I just think he's going to help turn around the Knicks to an extent. I think you're going to see a little bit of a resurgence in New York, and if that happens at all, and he's the guy on that team that leads them into at least even being competitive or in contention, I think that he could easily take the award. But SGA, like you guys said, everybody's probably going to leave that team except him. He's probably the one guy that they have that's really a building block for their future. And if that does happen, he could easily take the award because his usage rate's going to skyrocket, and he was already terrific this year. So
yeah, and I don't dislike the RJ Barrett pick. Just because, this wouldn't be the case of a rookie who's good getting very good. It would be a rookie who is not good suddenly being a good player, which is different than a lot of the second-year players who we say no to for most improved. So, yeah, I don't dislike that pick.
I don't either. I just think, kind of the typical storyline is like, well, he was, picked so high and he's supposed to be this good type thing.
Mm-hmm. I definitely apply for
but the Knicks can kill that real fast. You know what I mean? Going to the Knicks can kill any kind of expectations real quick. I honestly probably picked him because the other day I pulled a really, really nice rookie card of his out of a pack and hoping that it gets worth some money someday. So
there you go. Here's hoping.
It's worth about $250 on eBay right now. $2.50.
Oh, I was going to say $250.
No, I have a couple cards.
Maybe
I have
triplets value by the end of his career.
Right. I have a couple cards that are worth way over $250, Steven, but not any RJ Barretts, that's for sure.
No, I know that you have an extensive collection. You've talked to me about a couple of them, right?
Sean Kemp autograph cards looking pretty good lately. People are wanting it.
Yeah. I mean, if he has a cameo in the second Space Jam,
right?
Who knows,
Oh man, it's crazy, dude. Like literally, like NFL cards, the market is so volatile, it's unreal. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I had somebody offer me his rookie card for like $20 last week, and I said no. And the same guy is selling it because he had a 161-yard game. The same guy sold it for like $75 on Facebook the other day.
Jeez.
Like it's insane how fast it goes up and down. Like people were selling off their Joe Burrow cards 2 weeks ago when he had that bad game against the Steelers. Like they were, like they couldn't get rid of him. They were trying so hard to get rid of him. I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
Absolutely.
Before we move on from cards, when you mentioned Sean Kemp in Space Jam, I had a mental image of him, not Michael Jordan, doing that dunk to win the game in the first one, and then point at the Monstar.
Oh man, that would be awesome! Like you did out in Lister.
That's not real,
right?
Yeah.
Sean Kemp was something else. So if anybody
Sean Kemp's probably about upwards of 350 pounds at this point, isn't he? He got pretty big the last time I saw him.
I mean, he got.
I don't know
big,
if he could.
Cleveland,
I don't know if he could make it. Athletically for Space Jam.
Well, I mean, they can do all kinds of crazy stuff.
True.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's not like Michael Jordan has Stretch Armstrong arms, I guess.
Yeah, it's not like that was pretty realistic. I mean,
right.
I mean, the way people talk about. I mean, I'm not going down this rabbit hole. You almost got me. All right, so that finishes up the individual award. Oh, Logan, you were going to say something?
Oh no, I was just going to transition. I was going to help you transition away and go back to most improved player.
Oh, okay. Well, I think did we have anything else to add to most improved player? Or Logan, did you have a couple candidates that you wanted to share?
A couple. Darren Fox, maybe. OG Anunoby, DeJounte Murray. Those were other names I thought about. And,
yeah, Anunoby's up there for
I like
me.
Anunoby a lot.
Yeah. We're big Anunoby guys here on the pod, and I think that's a shot that he hit at the end of, like, in the bubble, like that was nuts. With what was that, like 0.4, 0.5 seconds?
0.5, I think.
Yeah,
little time as you can have.
And he acted like he hits that shot all the time, which was totally cool.
He does, just not in that moment.
His improvement as a 3-and-D player has just been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be, a little prelude, I'm going to be bringing him up here in a little while.
Hey.
But we're getting into the All-NBA.
Pascal Siakam type leap this year, it's his to lose. But yes, let's get into the next section.
Yeah. The way too early All-NBA first team. Who wants to lead this one off?
I'll go. I'm cool going first. So I went with Luka Doncic and Steph Curry.
Check.
I went with Anthony Davis.
Check.
Tatum and Giannis. That was my 5.
I had 4 out of your 5.
Who was the? Oh, Tatum.
Jason Tatum. Yep. Okay. Jason Tatum was 4, and Giannis Antetokounmpo was 5.
Okay. Logan, who do you have in your first team?
I also have 4 of those 5. I have Steph and Luka at guard, Giannis and LeBron at forward, Anthony Davis as the big.
Yeah, I had LeBron, Steph, Luka, Davis, Giannis.
It was hard for me to leave LeBron off the first team.
What the heck, dude?
I don't know. I didn't want to be accused of being a homer anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I almost left him off the first team, too.
Yeah, I just think, picking both him and AD is going to be hard to have 2 first-team All-NBAers on any team with the amount of talent that's in the league nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I think Tatum's the best under-25 player, maybe other than Luka. It's him or Luka, depending on how much you like Tatum's defense more than Luka's. But Luka's defense isn't that much worse. It's probably Luka. And, but I like Tatum a lot, and I just think that,
I love Tatum.
He's up and coming, and he's popular, and he's a little bit more of the sexy pick maybe than LeBron James. And, LeBron James is going to be right up there for sure. It could go either way. I just, I couldn't leave him off my top NBA, All-NBA first team and have him finish second in the MVP voting. So I had to put him in there somewhere.
I understand.
I don't think anybody else on that roster or on that list could go down more easily than LeBron. So,
are we putting too much faith in Steph Curry? Coming back on this year though, because it sounds like we all have him.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, yeah, his injury it shouldn't affect his game.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't one that's like it was a hand injury.
Well, let me ask you this, Steven. Does Steph Curry's game seem like the type of game that is going to age well, or he's going to fall off a cliff?
And as long as he can shoot, he can play forever.
Right.
And this was his left wrist, right, or left hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was off ball.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna be a terrific player for years to come. Still, I think he's gonna age very gracefully. The way he plays is just, it's not like he's Russell Westbrook that relies on his athleticism and freak ability to get to the rim. He can. Anybody, my dad's 74 years old and he can still go out in the driveway and hit 30-footers. He's been able to do it his whole life. It's one of those things. If you can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. As long as Steph is able to run around the court, tire defenders out, and get to a spot.
Run off the 3 screens, in a possession,
I mean, he hits threes, and the crowd erupts like it's a breakaway dunk. Like, it's unreal how much just a couple of those plays, just the momentum change that it can create. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just curious because we all have them there, so I wasn't expecting us to all to be like, no, we're all wrong. You know what I mean, by putting them up there. But I don't know, just a thought that I had. All right, so that's our first team. Moving in, second team. Logan, lead us off.
Second team: James Harden, Dame Lillard, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, and Nikola Jokic.
Okay, I have 3 of your 5. Austin,
nice.
Who do you got?
I have LeBron, Kawhi, Jokic, Lillard, and Kevin Durant, actually.
Okay. I have James Harden.
Sorry, so is LeBron a guard on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he was considered a guard this year. So
yeah, he could have been.
It's weird because I'm like, Luka could have been the guard and LeBron would have been the
yeah. Mm-hmm. I think Luka was a guard this year, but LeBron also could have been considered a guard.
Okay.
he was the point guard of the team.
Yep.
Gotcha. So I went James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Jason Tatum, and Kawhi Leonard as my second team.
Nice.
Yeah. And
I don't have any arguments there. I have a lot of those guys on my third team. So
yeah. Okay. Well, cool deal. And then we'll roll into the third team. Austin, go ahead, brother.
I have Jimmy Butler, James Harden, Ben Simmons, Bam Adebayo, and Chris Middleton.
Wow. Okay. Logan, how about you?
Man, this one was impossible. Has the league ever been deeper than it is right now? With
I don't think so.
Durant coming back.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, it literally shuffles everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had Jimmy Butler, Devin Booker, Pascal Siakam, Ben Simmons, and Bam Adebayo.
Okay,
nice. I like that pick.
Yeah, it was painful to leave Bradley Beal off. Kevin Durant, I left off just because I think he'll probably load manage this year. Like I don't expect him to play 75, 80 games. I don't expect him to be going 100%. So I had to leave him off, but it was hard.
Right.
Yeah. And that's totally
it could also be about 18 months since he's played a game by the time they start. He hasn't played in quite a while, and this on a normal year this would already be next year. So
yeah, that too.
It's going to be a long time before he sees a court again. Still,
and rumors are that the NBA is not going to start again until Martin Luther King Jr. Day is kind of like the most concrete date that I have been hearing in reports so far. So I mean, give him another, what is that, 4 months out? That's.
Yeah, man, that's a long ways away. I know, obviously, it won't work this year. I'd like to see the NBA start on Christmas Day every year, personally.
I was a really big fan of it, but I don't think that the players were a fan of the shifted timeline, right? But and I don't think that they like competing with football very much either. I mean, especially with the NFL now, with the whole COVID thing, like they're having games on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and stuff. Like the finals had to compete with, a whole bunch of different games, away from the NFL.
Right. I think, though, if you start at Christmas Day, you've got maybe the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season to, month and a half, I think, really, before the Super Bowl's over.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the first 2-3 months of the NBA season doesn't get nearly as much eyes on it because of football. And, game one of the World Series is pretty much right when the NBA season, gets going. And it would make a lot more sense because the original reason basketball was played when it was because they didn't want to compete with baseball. Well, now that's not any competition really at all in terms of viewership. Right. So I just think it makes a lot of sense.
There's still some loyal fans out there, right? But my third team, I have Damian Lillard. I almost went with Trae Young as the guard here. I'm expecting a big jump from Atlanta. I have them as the 8th seed in the East in my way too early power rankings.
Nice.
I went with him. I went with Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Karl Anthony Towns, and I think that we're going to see a really big improved year from Joel Embiid this season. So I went ahead and went with Joel Embiid. And when I looked at my list and I saw that I don't have a Nikola Jokic, it broke my heart because I love Nikola Jokic. But I think that we're going to start seeing the offense shift away from him with the emergence of, with the way that Murray played in the
right.
And then I think that they're going to start incorporating Michael Porter Jr. a little bit more in the offense. So I think it's going to be a little bit more egalitarian type offense, right? Instead of Nikola Jokic having to run the offense all the time. I think it's going to kind of transition a little bit away from that.
That's fair.
I see all that happen.
Having Booker on the team, but would he be your forward?
I'm sorry?
Would Booker be one of your forwards on this team?
Oh, no. So I had Damian Lillard and Booker as my guards. Kevin Durant. I had Karl Anthony Towns and Joel Embiid.
Okay.
Oh, man.
I have those as my front court. I think that Cat being healthy this year, he was off on such a tear early last season. I think that if he can stay healthy, he's going to be.
If he stays healthy and the Timberwolves are good, because if he posts 28 points game or whatever, but they're the 13th seed, like voters are going to over him or Bam over him or Embiid.
Yeah, if that was the case, I would probably put a Jokic over there. But yeah, I mean that's kind of where I see it now in this way too early scenario.
Yeah.
Right now, now to my favorite segment. I love the defense. I love evaluating defense because it's almost impossible to fully evaluate and appreciate. Logan, would you like to lead us off in the defensive first team?
Yeah, I can do that. My guards are Ben Simmons and Drew Holiday. I know that I had Simmons as a forward in my All NBA team, but I'm just going to cheat. If you do that, then we can bump Butler to forward and Simmons to NBA, and we're good.
Right.
I don't think people care as much when it comes to the defensive teams as they do like All-Star and All NBA teams.
Right.
But yeah, so Ben Simmons and Drew Holiday at guard, Giannis and AD at forward, and Bam as the big.
I had almost the exact same team, except I had a different guard. Austin.
I have Chris Dunn, Ben Simmons, Giannis, AD, and Rudy Gobert.
Man, I love Chris Dunn so much. He did such a good job and
Me too.
Very underappreciated. He was on my second team this past year. I had on my first team. Really big fan of this guy, Austin. You know who I like so much, Marcus Smart.
I do. Yep.
I love Marcus Smart. I think that he's greatly underappreciated in the NBA right now. I have he and Simmons as my guards here. Anthony Davis, since he was my defensive player of the year, has to be here. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bam Adebayo as my defensive first team.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
Austin.
Hey, you absolutely don't have to have AD on your first team. Marcus All won the defensive player of the year, and he was second team.
Exception, not the rule, right?
Doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, exception, not the rule.
Right. So my second team, I had Marcus Smart and Jimmy Butler. I guess he's a guard. I don't know. I probably cheated there.
No, he played a little bit of two.
Jason Tatum, he could possibly be a two there too. He could play 2 or 3. I had Jason Tatum, Butler, Marcus Smart, Bam Adebayo, and Kawhi Leonard.
Not a bad second unit there.
I think Logan, Tatum's defense is a little underrated.
I think that I love Tatum so much. I think you're overrating his defense a little bit. But I mean, if Boston does good and he's the big reason why, and he is an MVP candidate, not crazy to think that he could be in second team votes.
Mm-hmm.
Logan.
Yeah, my team was similar. Same guards, Marcus Smart and Jimmy Butler. My forwards were Kawhi Leonard and OG Anunoby. And
Nice.
my big is Rudy Gobert.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to cheat a little bit and have Anunoby as a guard in this situation because it's a defensive teams and I don't think that people care.
I'm not gonna,
I think Matisse Thybulle is going to step up even more than he did this year. I love Thybulle's game a lot.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Now I'm picturing a Chris Paul, Matisse Thybulle, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid.
Right.
Is the core.
It's Chris Paul running the offense. It'll be okay. They'll be a top 4 seed if he's over there. Easy.
Oh, if he goes there, definitely.
Yeah, but I got Anunoby and Thybulle as my backcourt. I have Kawhi Leonard, and I see a Draymond Green resurgence too.
I thought about him.
I
think him in.
Yep, I have him making second team along with Mr. Rudy Gobert.
Nice.
Rounding out my.
I hate Draymond Green, but he's a good pick. But I can't stand the guy.
I am not the biggest fan in the world of him, but I mean,
I think that's what he wants.
Yeah, I mean,
he kind of likes being like the villain.
If we were Warrior fans, we would probably love him.
That's exactly what I mean. Like he wants his team to like him and everybody else to hate him.
Yeah,
kind of guy.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit of that worm vibe going on, right?
Yeah, last year I wanted the Suns to try to trade for him and his bulky contract for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
If he's on your team, you love him and he's a good leader. If he's not on your team, you hate him.
Yeah. Well, not only is he a great defender, but you can, even run a little bit of offense through him too, right? So that's something that is valuable across the league now. Well, cool. Well, that was the conclusion that we had of all of the way too early regular season awards. Logan, I just want to thank you so much for, being a returning guest here on the show. I know that we have been talking throughout the year, throughout the playoffs, and really just enjoy, being able to hit you up and bounce some thoughts and knowledge off of you, and just make sure that I'm not crazy and you get some validation in my takes and things like that. And again, just thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know that you had, some new stuff come up in your professional life, but before we close out, is there anything that you want to let the listeners or viewers know?
Yeah, so with the Thunderwire, next week we're doing a trade week. So sort of extravaganza on just all the trade ideas we can think of that might be
nice.
realistic. I mentioned a couple of them in here. There are a few more that I did not mention. So go check that out. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And also, I want to shout out you for your Miami Heat pick to make the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last podcast me and Steven did, you called that, and I did not believe you, but I was wrong.
Well, to be fair, I didn't have them in the finals, but I did have them in the Eastern. I had them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
You had them beating the Bucks.
Yep, I had them beating the Bucks and then losing to the Celtics. But I did mention on the podcast that if they did make it to the finals, I wouldn't be surprised. So to take away a little bit of a credit to myself and give me a little bit more back in my direction, I will definitely do that for myself.
That's not how this works, Steven. You just got to take credit. If somebody's trying to give it to you, you just say, "Yeah, of course I knew what they were going to do that."
I would like to think that someone would call me out on this, and that someone.
They will, but that doesn't matter.
Yep, I wanted to beat you to the punch. But Logan, thank you so much. Austin, before we close out, big news. Austin is now a part of the same network as myself, the Off the Ball Network. You just had some work come up. Do you want to go ahead and give yourself a little bit of plug since you gave me a hard time for giving myself credit?
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm part of Off the Ball Network now. I left Game Changer Sports Network. I wish them, nothing but good luck in the future. Just it works out better for us, I think, doing a show together, being on the same network. Logan, thanks for coming on. It was awesome to meet you. I had a lot of fun. It's cool anytime anyone wants to come and talk sports with us. Like he said, it makes me feel a little bit less crazy. I know I am, but whatever. But yeah, Steven and I have actually both put out our way too early power rankings on the website. Obviously mine are better, but I
mean, it's just the way it is sometimes.
I'm sure Steven would say the same about his.
It is what it is.
It is interesting. I think it'll be fun at the end of the year to look back and see where, how wrong we were or how right we were and who was more right or wrong, kind of, get to, be rivals in that sense a little bit, I guess. So definitely go check those out. There's all kinds of good work. I'm pretty sure we just got, an official Facebook page too for the network, just went up recently. There's lots of stuff in the works. So
yeah, absolutely. And along with that, we're probably going to be doing a co-op version of this take or this show where we, write out who our award winners we predict them going to be and some reasons for doing or reasons for selecting them, right? Mm-hmm. So look forward to that. And then go check out, there's some great NFL stuff on the site as well. Jeff does his way too early power rank or his weekly power rankings, and they're always great. There's some really, really good stories on the draft coming up. And I'm sure that we're going to be having more content on that. But for Austin and myself and for our special guest, Logan, we just want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their day to watch or listen now or later when this comes out tomorrow. And just thank you guys so much for your support and your time. Go check out offtheballnetwork.com. You can follow us on Twitter at OTB_network. And then, the same old places where you can find Austin and myself are on there as well. But again, just thank you guys so much. Much love, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.